Welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deidre Moss, and I am the host of Can We Talk? I am an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. Since April is observed as Occupational Therapy OT Month, we dedicated this session to talk about occupational therapy and other related topics. Today, we've invited Charles Robbins. I hope I got the name right.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, to help us dissect this topic. So at this time, I will turn the virtual mic to her to have her introduce herself.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Robbins, and I am an occupational therapist by profession. I am a mentor, I'm a minister in my church, and I am so many other things. But most of all, the thing that makes me happiest is that I'm a mother of a 14-year-old. And that's about all I'll say at this present time.
Thank you for that introduction. So can we talk occupational therapy?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So before we begin, if you just joined us, like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page. We need your support to continue these talks. Also, if there's something that you think we should be talking about, feel free to let us know. We want to hear from you. So with that, let us get into our talk. And so I just want to jump to background for our viewers and listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ms. Robbins?
Okay, I am making sure that we share this link.
Yes.
All right, 1 second.
No worries. But I'm so glad to have you here joining us today. And so I know you gave us a brief introduction, but we just want to know just a little bit about you. I know you have a strong background in occupational therapy, and so it's something to talk about and just get a little bit of insight about what occupational therapy is all about. So I'll give you a minute to jump in.
All right, wonderful. So yes, so occupational therapy. Oh, a little bit about myself, first of all. So I have been an occupational therapist for the past 20 years, 21 years. I became an occupational therapist in the year 2001, and we are now in 2022. Wow, time flew by. I started right here in the Bahamas as an entry-level therapist. And then I moved to the Turks and Caicos, where I spent, I think, about a year or two practicing occupational therapy there. And then I came back home. I did some volunteer time in the United States of America as well. I am the proprietor of a small school called Genius Soul, and we're in the process of rebranding. So stay tuned. Everybody, just stay tuned and listen for what you would hear. But that would be an inclusive environment for children with disabilities and those that are typically developing kids as well. I am also, like I said before, a minister at my church, Broken and Worship Ministries International. I am the oldest child and the middle child. So I'm oldest and middle. My parents are Edith Burns from the Turks and Caicos Islands and Charlie Softly Robbins, who is from the island of Grand Bahama. So when people ask me where I'm from, I usually say somewhere around here, because my navel spring vary one place, I born one place, and I spend time in another. So I'm all Bahamian and a little sprinkle of Turks and Caicos Island. But that's just a little bit more about who I am. Now, the practice of occupational therapy. In short, what occupational therapy is we call it an art and a science. So it's an art and a science because we use what we call therapeutic media, interesting ways to ensure that persons who have disabilities or impairments, that they're able to function in their everyday living skills. So occupation is the job of living. And what we do is we make sure that you would achieve quality of life despite anything. So if you only had one hand and you used to be a baseball player before, it'll be the occupational therapist's job to find modified techniques so that you can enjoy that sport again. So that is what we do. We definitely maximize functional independence.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And you spoke a little bit about your work with persons with disabilities, and that's something that stood out to me. So I don't know if you want to just elaborate just a little bit more on that.
Okay, so persons persons acquire disability. Some persons are born with disabilities, and some people persons have short-term disorders. And so, in all of that, encompassing those three definitions, it tells us that something is wrong with the way that they function. They don't function the way that we would say a typical person would function. And I apologize for using those words, but I think it's something that everybody would understand at this point. Um, but once that person would present to an occupational therapist, we do what we call an evaluation or an assessment. Once we assess their needs, and then we discuss what their goals are, what it is that they want to achieve, we plan what we call client centered activities to ensure that they are able to function in certain areas. It could be as simple as taking a bath again. It could be washing your dishes. If you were a mother who would have had a stroke while you would have been in labor, we had to show you how to care for your child with a one-handed technique. So those are things that we do. Even children in school, we help them to focus, attend, read, write, do mathematics, you name it. Occupational therapist definitely does the job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to jump to our comments for those who are just joining us. I want to recognize Lynetta Weaver. Hi, Miss Weaver. Thank you so much for joining us today. L.A. Hasty, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, daughter of Zion. And for those on the call with us, I want to thank you for joining us as well, who are on in this platform with us. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you can pull something from the session today. So I just want to get back to our questions. And you talked a little bit about occupational therapy and what it is about. You spoke about it being an art and a science as well. And so I want to jump to another question as it pertains to benefits. Can you share some of the benefits of occupational therapy?
Benefit occupational therapy is a benefit all in itself because once you would have had to see an occupational therapist, something is wrong with the way that you function every day, whether you are a child or an adult. I usually say from the cradle to the grave. And so once you would have had the, what can I say, the benefit of being referred to this great profession, and a professional would have evaluated you and begun treatment. The benefit is that you could live an independent life, or we could maximize your independence no matter where you fall in line. It is as simple as thinking about it like this. If you were pregnant and you had an issue tying your shoelaces, and you say, boy, I cannot bend down to tie these shoelaces. What do I do? And I say, hey, I know someone whose superpower is occupational therapy. Let's call her in and see what she suggests. And she comes and she says, okay, you have a temporary issue, but we have a resolve. Let's try shoes that are one size too big or half a size too big that don't have lacings so that you don't have to bend down at all. You can slide your foot right in. Or we can say, this is called the long handle shoehorn, which is an adaptive equipment. And you use this to, and we teach you how to use it. You use this to slide your foot in. So it's just simple techniques like that, whether it be giving a piece of equipment, modifying your environment, or retraining you to do what you used to do before. That is the benefit of an occupational therapist. Maximum independence.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go back to our comments. Hi, Aisha Starr. Thank you for joining us. Veronica Rule. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I want to go back just a little bit. I want to go back, Ms. Robbins, just a little bit, just in case, we glazed over it just a little bit in terms of what is occupational therapy for those who may be just a little bit unfamiliar with, what it is. If you could just share, if you can, just go back over it a little bit. What is occupational therapy? I don't know anything about it. For someone who may be unfamiliar,
Okay.
just, yeah.
So there's a definite scientific 24-sentence definition of what occupational therapy is. But for the purpose of this live broadcast, an occupational therapist is the person you would see to get you back to functioning as independently as possible, despite any disabilities or disorders that you may have. And that goes from the age of 0 until the end of life.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping that simple. So I also want to mention Nelson Captain Boleg, well-deserved chalice. You represent very well. Okay. So let's talk about career. How did you get into this career? You talk about your navel string and you being Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, being in different areas. But how did Chalice get into this career? Thank you, Aniska. She said she's going to remember that definition. Thank you. How did you get into this career?
Okay, so I stumbled across occupational therapy, literally. I was at Palm Beach Community College. I was actually a volleyball player there on scholarship. And I was sitting with my advisor and I was going through the book to find out what courses I have next. And so I said, I really want to do physical therapy. But my last experience as a physical therapist, I was kind of bored. I said, because every time I went in, I knew nothing about the profession except for what I would have experienced when I had an injury, a sports injury. I said, every time I went in, the routines felt so similar. And I didn't think that I had enough, what's the word? I self-diagnosed myself with attention deficit disorder. But my attention span wouldn't last that long for me to continue to do the same treatment plans over and over again from client to client with a knee injury. So I said, that's not the profession for me. So I started flipping through the book and it was LMNOP. And I said, let me go backwards. Occupational therapy. I told my sports advisor, I said, I want to do this. She said, do you even know what that is? I said, no, but this is what I want to do. So she said, okay. So she got my courses together for that semester, and then I would have come home for the summer. And so they said, before you go on to university, I got provisional acceptance into Florida A&M University, but they said, you have to do X amount of hours volunteer. So I was like, okay, great. I needed it because I had no idea what occupational therapy was. So when I came home and I did my research, there was one occupational therapy department with an occupational therapist in it, and it was at Sandlands Rehabilitation Center. So that was 25 years ago, and I volunteered there. And I enjoyed it so much. At one point in time, my mother had asked me, she was like, Sandlands paying you in? Because I sure you already put in all the hours you need to put in. But I had so much fun. So I fell in love. I used the phrase yesterday at Sandlands. I said, here is where it set my soul ablaze for this profession. So that is how I fell in love with the profession. So I found the profession and fell in love with it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we're going to continue our talk on occupational therapy, but I want us to deviate just a little bit, not too far from your expertise, because you're also involved with body positivity. So I just want to touch a little bit on that. Recently, there's been some talk about fat shaming. And so as it pertains to body positivity, is there anything you would like to add in terms of within that area and in us, having a positive body image?
So, and we're not deviating at all because occupational therapy is also mental health. So we do physical dysfunctions as well as mental health. So it's exciting to talk about it. And one of the things that is so important is self-image, having a positive self-image. And body positivity is just that, having a positive self-image despite your skin tone, despite your size, your ethnicity, your physical abilities. It's just accepting who you are. It's getting the serenity from God to accept the things you cannot change and giving you the courage to change the things that you can. And I think that it is a sad thing that happened, but I'm so glad that it made the news. And it made it in such a positive way because no matter her physical structure, she is a winner. And I think that is a message that many young people, even older folks, have to have. One thing Bahamians always say, Jesus, you gain weight, eh? That's the first thing they say is make you feel like it's a problem. Don't lose
Yeah,
weight.
that's a greeting. That's not even, that's literally a greeting. It's not
That's
how you doing. It's hi, you gain weight.
yeah. And they're not sure how that makes people feel. You know what I mean? And I think if we teach persons to accept who you are, the person that the Lord has designed you to become, then it'll be better. And I'm not saying that to say you must live an unhealthy life. I'm saying do what you can to preserve life, but accept whatever shape, whatever form, whatever size, whatever color that comes in.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned that, in terms of acceptance, but I didn't necessarily talk about the particular issue that um arose that recently happened. I didn't really specifically speak to that. So just for context, I just wanted to say that recently there was a situation that came about. Young lady came forward in the news and spoke about, came forward to the new, came forward, sorry, she came forward and she spoke about the fact that she was, in a sense, allegedly, or in a sense, she was fat shamed. It's particularly because of the particular sport she was in, and because of her size. I guess that particular sport that she was in, she was made to feel as though she was not supposed to be there. And so you talk about acceptance, you talk about not necessarily being unhealthy, but accepting yourself. And you talk about body positivity, and not so much it being an issue with her, but her being made to feel as though she should not have been there. So is there anything else you would like to add? I just wanted to add a little bit of context because I didn't mention that in the beginning, but I wanted to add some context to it.
I just to say, what I've already said before, and to all of those listening, that we must be very careful because we can cause persons, like you can obviously see, she didn't just get on a plane and get there. Work had to get put in. That was an international event that she was to. So she put in the work. Her parents didn't stop her. And sometimes that's what happens. We get blocked from the persons right around us because they themselves are looking and judging based on what they see. Oh, you can't do that. You need to do this. You can't, you know what I mean? And so we have to be very careful of what words we put in. We have to speak life. Literally, the Bible says life, the power of life and death is in the power of the tongue. Life and death lies in the power of the tongue. Sorry about that. So if we speak life, then we'll plant seeds, and then we'll see a tree grow, and then we'll see the fruit from that tree. And that is what we're seeing now on Facebook. Someone who is confident, has a strong body image or self-image, who has now excels and broken barriers. They say shatter glass ceilings. So she shattered the glass ceiling.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And as we move along, we want to talk about awareness. What are your thoughts on the level of awareness of occupational therapy and its benefits in the Bahamas? You spoke about the fact that 25 years ago, there was only one resource that you could have, to complete your hours at. So at this point now, what are your thoughts on the level of awareness as pertains to occupational therapy and its benefits
It
in our
has
country?
been it has been a long, arduous road. We started with just one from the very beginning. That person would have passed away. And then there was one more that came. And then others came, but they didn't stay because there were no benefits in terms of remuneration. So they went off to where they could find better remuneration. And here now, when persons are home and practicing any rehabilitation field, to tell the truth, but we're talking specifically about occupational therapy, you have to pat them on the back because they literally only home for passion. And we have students studying occupational therapy now. We have occupational therapists home. I think the last count was 14 occupational therapy practitioners in 2022. So that is a long way we've come, and we're in private practice, we're in private clinics, we're in government clinics, both the physical and mental health clinics. We are school-based, we're traveling therapists. So we've done with a small number, we made it a really big deal. But the awareness is still very small because there's only so much one can do. There's only so much gates you could almost kick out of the way because it ain't as easy as you think. It ain't just going to a doctor and saying, "Hey, I'm here," because a lot of our doctors, where they've trained, like I heard the other day, there's only one occupational therapist in Jamaica, and that's where the majority of our physicians are trained. So when they come here, they still so accustomed to referring to one therapeutic practice that you have to go in and tell them more about you, and you have to be more present, always in their face, and that's a lot for the therapist to do, as well as manage their day-to-day caseload. So we still have a long way to go, but we appreciate persons like yourself that give us the platforms that we need to come and educate people about what this profession does, who we are, and to let them know that we are here in the country to help as many as we can.
Thank you. Could you go back to that count? You said as of 2022, there are
14 occupational therapy practitioners. That would be occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to mention Denise Richmond. Good afternoon, Miss Richmond. Shakira Strawn, thank you so much for joining us. Erica Boros, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us. And so, Occupational Therapy Month. Why is this month so important? Why is it so important to highlight occupational therapy?
Well, we covered that in the last question when you talked about awareness and us not having time. So in 1980, they coined this month International Occupational Therapy Month. And they are forcing us, I use the word force, but we enjoy talking about our professions, but we step away from our everyday caseloads so that we can spread the good news about occupational therapy to the wider populace. So we take a breather from the day to day, and then we push our profession even more. And I think it's very important to do that because occupational therapists have a passion for their clients. You would hardly ever find an occupational therapist that'll cancel on a client because we know how important it is to their rehabilitation to have the sessions as often as possible. So it says, breathe, take a break, educate, and then get back to your regular scheduled program. So it's very important. And we don't only celebrate it here. Like I said, it's International Occupational Therapy Month. So all over the globe, we push an OT.
Awesome. Awesome. And I just want to jump back to you and talking about the fact that it wasn't necessarily a career of choice. You were in college, you were pursuing something else. And the first one you said what's the first one you said? When you
Physical
were
therapy.
Physical therapy, and you ended up in occupational therapy. And you loved it so much and you made it your career. And you've been in this career
Yes.
for
I graduated in 2001. And I was working before I graduated. Listen to me. I have to say that I was recruited. That's how bad they needed occupational therapists in this country. My mom is on Zoom and she can tell you, they was calling her looking for me, both hospitals. So I was recruited from abroad. I was working before I even graduated. Before I even graduated. But it says a lot for the time, our government, even Doctors Hospital was moving with the time. They understood how important occupational therapy was to a rehab team. And that was in 2001. Now, they still see the importance. They do. But they just ain't matching that with the, what they say that above, they ain't match. But I think it will come.
Definitely. And you speak with so much passion, like Ms. Boleg said knowledgeable and passionate. Thank you, Chalice. And Nadia is saying awesome work, accomplishment, Lady Roberts.
Thank you.
So thank you for making that shift and seeing that where you were in terms of physical therapy wasn't necessarily your passion. And so you found that as you did your research a little bit more, you found that your passion lied within occupational therapy. So thank you so much for pursuing your passion. And even in that, that's an important point to note as well, of how important it is to really run after your passion. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to ask you if you have any additional comments you would like to add as we wind down.
Well, I didn't say this, but recently I've been elected the president for the Bahamas Occupational Therapy Association. And so,
excuse me, so how could you miss that?
I know, right? I was
repeat that again. That's important. Go ahead, repeat that, please.
I was so excited to talk about the profession. I forgot to say some stuff about me, right? So I was recently elected the president for the Bahamas Occupational Therapy Association. And so what that means, so for me, and I don't do this often, so my heart will pump and y'all forgive me a little bit, but I don't talk about myself.
So excited, you freeze a little bit.
So I started as a supervisor.
I want you to go back. I want you to go back over just a little bit. You froze a little bit.
Okay.
Just go back, yeah.
So I was saying that this means that I would have accomplished every area of occupational therapy available to me in country. So I came home and I worked as an entry-level therapist, and then I became a supervisor, and then I became the deputy director of rehab services, which would have been the highest post for rehab services at the time. And now I'm holding one of the highest posts in the country for occupational therapy as the president. And so that is a major accomplishment for me. I'm about to be 44 in just a couple of days, and it is Occupational Therapy Month. So I'm very excited for all that I would have accomplished in my time here on Earth.
Wow. So repeat that one more time. You're moving, don't glaze over that. That's so very important. Don't glaze over that. Let's say that the president of, let's say that again.
Yes, so as the Occupational Therapy Association of the Bahamas. So I'm the president of that association. Yes.
Wow, so what role and responsibilities does that encompass?
Okay, so it is definitely a role. It's a leadership role in our association. It is there to push the profession forward, also to do more for the professionals in country. I am an all occupational therapist. If you meet one, you've met all in terms of passion, in terms of advocacy. We push for our profession, but it puts me in a role that opens doors so that I can do a little bit more for the profession. Through that, we are also associated with the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. So we ain't just a small army of 14. We get the world backing us. And so we can use that to our advantage in our country so that people can understand who we are and give us a little bit more credit for what we do. And then when we start to talk about why we need to hire more therapists and pay them more, and we have the world backing us, the powers that we could look at it and say, you know what? They ain't lie. They have a point. Let's give them this money. But it challenges me to do a little bit more.
Awesome. Wow, you have made some significant strides, Madam President. Have you been elected already?
Yes.
So you're already the president?
Yes, I'm the president now for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. So thank you for joining us today. Is there any additional comments you would like to add? Anything that you missed? Anything you glazed over you feel like you want to reiterate?
I'm not necessarily. But you can find me on Facebook, Charles Robbins. I also have a Facebook page called Your Local OT, and also one called Genius Soul. So you can find me right there on Facebook. I'm not opposed to private messages about this profession. I'm here to answer as much as I can. always available. Sometimes I'm too accessible, but I think it's important because I'm going to say in the United States, occupational therapy is one of the fastest growing professions. And I remember years ago when I first came home, when I first came home as an occupational therapist, I journal a lot. And so in my letter to God, I said, I want to see 5 more therapists by a certain year. And we've doubled that number. Actually, we're 3 times that now in 2022, because 5 more, we're now at the number 15. God is good. And that's not including our support staff. So we do have support staff that support us in what we do. They're not trained or licensed registered professionals, but they are great support at all times. But now, when I write again, my letter to God is that I want to see that occupational therapy is one of the fastest growing professions in this country as well. So we want to mirror what our cousins in the United States do by saying more. And mind you, there are a lot of professionals out there every day. We have kids saying, I'm studying OT, I'm studying OT. Can you send me a recommendation for OT? So it looks good. Our future is very bright. So stay tuned.
Awesome. And you mentioned something. You mentioned that occupational therapy is one of the fastest growing occupations. Is there you think there's a reason why?
Yeah, of course, the benefits. The benefits. Literally, I read a quote that gave a definition of occupational therapy, and it said, "We turn the can't into can, and the impossible into possible." So you know how valuable that is for any company, that I could get someone back to work who had a back injury. So they don't have to pay as much workers' comp if they just modify the environment so the person can get back to work. So we do things like that. We definitely allow people to have quality of life, spend less time off, more time in productive activities and doing things that they love. And so when people see the benefits in that regard, so many people are passionate, even now after the pandemic. People call it pandemic. We personified what we went through or what we're going through. But the mental health aspect of that, even if you look at Canada, the mental health aspect, occupational therapy is playing a vital role in getting people back to meaningful activity. So those are the reasons why you would see occupational therapy making leaps and bounds. And then the numbers look good. $150,000 an entry level therapist. Of course, I'll fly to that profession. But yes, so you see things of that nature going on now.
And you mentioned something important as well. We're in the month of April. We're moving. May is next month, which is Mental Health Month. You mentioned something important that I picked up on, as it pertains to the benefits, and that being that mental, aspect of occupational therapy and that the mental benefits. Can you just talk a little bit about that the mental aspect?
Okay, so one of the things we already mentioned, is talking about positive self-image. I will go to drug addiction because it may be closer to home for many of us. Many of us have persons who are on drugs, who have been on drugs, or who are alcoholics near to us or in our families. So I'll use that example. But what we do in a mental health capacity for a person who is being rehabilitated is we give them a new life. We found that persons drink, they start as casual drinkers, and then they move into these functional drinking capacities. And then all of a sudden, we see their life skills begin to spiral downward. So when they come to us, we then create life again. We give them new activities. We call it leisure skills exploration. So we explore different avenues of what you can do in your free time. And then we talk about the reasons you would have drank. So, yes, you drank casually. What made you drink even more? Some people will say, well, I lost my job. So, an occupational therapist does vocational training and we expose them at an SRC. If you have a chance, please go and visit. They have wonderful work programs there. So, we put them into a work program after we have done an assessment to see what they enjoy, what they're capable of doing. And so, we then give them a skill. After that, we show them how to look for jobs on social media, newspaper. You know what I mean? We give them the tools that they need to do that. And then beyond that, tell them how to dress, how to create resumes. We do everything so that when they
So you
leave an
you do all of that?
yes, ma'am,
Oh wow.
the job of living, that's occupational
Wow.
therapy. Why you think I so passionate with this thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Wow.
So we give them a whole package so that we create a whole woman or a whole man again. So that when they
Wow.
were to leave us or when they are discharged, that they have this information to carry them through the rest of their lives.
Awesome. Miss Boleg says the job of living. The job of living. Wow. Lynetta Weaver says, congratulations. Major, major accomplishment. So proud of you.
Thank
Um,
you.
Denise Richmond is saying, so proud of you, my sister.
Thank
Um,
you.
Captain Boleg says, yes, she does speak with conviction. That is what makes your listeners confident. But evidently, Chalice is a real professional. There's logic in how she conveys her message. A true, strong Bahamian woman.
Wow.
Wendy Moss is saying awesomeness. And Erica Candace Sparrow says, your passion is leading the way. Bright future indeed.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
so
much.
yeah, so you talk about the significant role that occupational, oh, Miss Major saying my cuz, okay.
Hey.
You talk about this is significant, Miss Robbins. You talk about the role that they play. You talk about resume building. You talk about even teaching how to dress. All of those components are a part of it.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. For those of us who may not be as familiar with what occupational therapy is and what an occupational therapist does, I want to thank you for sharing that information.
And it is going on right here at the
And it is
Silence
going on right
Rehabilitation.
here.
Yes, yes, yes. They prepare persons there for halfway homes, how to live independently, cooking programs, gardening programs. It's going on there. You know, you would literally, like I said, I had to go there because I didn't know anything about it at first either. But when I got into Sandilands, I fell in love with it. When I came home, I started practicing at Princess Margaret Hospital. And it was also a beautiful thing. It's a different aspect, it's physical dysfunctions, but it is amazing to see how the entire team would work together. If a person would come and say, let's say, had a stroke, the physical therapist, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist get together, plan treatments for this person so that we can literally discharge them into their profession again. And so it's just a beautiful profession. That's my summation. OT
And
is
I can see
beautiful.
why you're so passionate about it, because you're talking about the fact of all these persons coming together to basically, get a person back on track with their life and transforming lives.
Yes, transforming lives, no matter what, despite illness, injury, impairment, or disability.
Wow, powerful. So you talked about, thank you for sharing with us. You covered so much. You talk about occupational therapy, and you also shared your accomplishments as a Bahamian woman, um, Madam President, Madam President, and being in place to push um, this career, push this field of occupational therapy in your role as the president of its occupational therapy society, or do I have it
Association.
right? Association. Okay.
Yes.
And in your role as president, this is so important. Miss Major calls you a kingdom builder. It's so very very important. So I want to thank you for sharing. And then you're also involved in other things. So you're not talking about those other things that you're involved in, because I don't know if you want to highlight those.
But I mean, I just spotlighting occupational therapy, and it's funny that if you look at everything that I'm involved in, occupational therapy is literally ingrained in everything that I do. So the training is actually the springboard to a lifetime of success. So I'm excited to see what else comes out of this. But yeah, it's about let's talk OT. So, but I want to say hello to all my mother is here. She's on. my cousin, Katina Major, my sisters are on. I just want to thank you all for the support. My sister all the way in Canada. Hi, honey. Thank you so, so much. My business consultant is here. Everyone is here. My goodness, I am so excited.
Okay, you have a lot of persons who came out to support you. Let me get to this comment. I
Like,
don't
I
know of
can hear you, mommy.
Miss Edith says, I don't know of anyone who is more passionate than my very knowledgeable daughter. She gives her all when it comes to her clients and her ministry. Love you, Chalice. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom, for being here and sharing. And I know you guys are so proud of her for all of her accomplishments. And thank you, Ms. Robbins, for sharing with us today as well. And we also talked about body positivity as well, as we saw recently again, and just briefly recapping about what we saw being played out with a young woman being kind of, in a sense, allegedly ostracized for her size, and the importance of body positivity, as well as just being mindful of the things that we say to our young people. She spoke about the fact that the words that were said kind of discourage her from even wanting to continue. So it's important to be mindful of the things that we say. And you also spoke about, Ms. Robbins, the other areas that the other fields that you're involved in all kind of ties together, and they're all connected in some way. And so that, again, that speaks to the importance of what you're doing and the importance of your career. And so I just want to thank you for sharing with us today. And
Thank you so much. Thank you.
and so we're coming to the end, and I just want to throw it back at you, see if you want to add anything else before we end our session today.
One more big thank you to everyone that is tuned in. Thank you for being so interactive. Thank you so much. I'm extremely appreciative of you being here with us today. Also to you, Ms. Moss, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for waiting me out. I appreciate that. Your patience is commendable. So I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate you. And I have to talk our business. She changed the topic so that she could accommodate Occupational Therapy Month. I appreciate, you don't know how appreciative I am of you for doing that. Thank you for being so accommodating. Thank you so much. And I think that's all that I have to say. God's blessings over you and over your show. Can we talk? I pray that you get international recognition for the work that you're doing right here in our country. Listen, when you get to the top, don't forget. Don't wave at me. Invite me up there with you, eh?
But we'll be there together, because you're already
Amen.
there, so we'll be there together. I'm just a Bahamian woman. Thank you so much, Ms. Bolek. Just a Bahamian woman. We need to talk about and highlight these issues in our community. And it's not about waiting for someone to give you a seat at the table. It's creating a table for yourself and creating the environment and the atmosphere for yourself. And so that's very important. And when you work with passion and you do excellent work, trust me, the doors are going to open up for you. So if you don't need someone to open the door for you, the door is going to be, open to you. And so I want to thank you
Amen.
For joining us today and talking about this, because this is a very important topic. And it's important for us to learn about these things. I'm looking at the comments. I'm getting distracted with the comments. You both taught Mommy a lot today. Thank you, Ms. Burns. I'm looking at the comments. Thank you all for being here. I want to jump back to the comments right quickly before we end. I don't want to miss anybody, so I'm just going to jump back to those comments. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you again. And we want to talk about those things because you're involved in other areas as well. So we're going to talk about those other things as well. We want to talk about body positivity. That's a big thing. That's a separate topic that we want to focus on. So I want you to come back. Yes. I want us to talk about that. We live in a country. We need to talk about body positivity. That's been a recent thing. So I want us to go back into that. But with that, we are coming to the end of this particular session of occupational therapy that is recognized in the month of April. You have a page. I know you shared it before, but you want to quickly tell us your page again?
Yes. Yes. So you can join me at Genius Soul, GENIUS SOUL on Facebook, and Your Local OT. That's also on Facebook. And I have an Instagram page that's Genius Soul 242 on Instagram. And then you could also add my personal page at Charles Robbins, Facebook. Yes. I also
Awesome.
have a website,
Go ahead.
geniussoulbahamas.com or www.charlesrobbins.com if you want to find out the more that Ms. Moss is talking about. It's right there on my website. But we definitely, so she's invited me back. And I hope to
Definitely,
see you all back here
definitely.
again.
Yeah,
And we're going to
definitely.
talk some more.
Yeah, definitely. We
Yes.
definitely have some more to talk about. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for sharing with us today, talking about your
Yes.
passion. So thank you all for listening to our talk. I would like to thank our guest, Charles Robbins. I would like to thank our viewers and listeners for listening in. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. Comment under this video. Let us know your thoughts and let us know what you want us to talk about. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Can We Talk? Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, using the addresses provided on our page. And remember, let's think, talk, do. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.